Ladies and gentlemen, next what we have with us is a fireside chat, right? We told you we're going to give you everything today and you're going to get everything. So we'll just take 30 seconds to set up the stage. I'm sure we can do it in 30 seconds. Let's see. In case you want to start counting. We're about 10 seconds in. You think we can do it? With AI, we keep hearing that everything can be done in less than a minute, right? So with humans also, we are trying to do it in 30 seconds now. All right. So next on today's agenda is a fireside chat on the topic, the evolution of marketing. And for that, may I invite upon stage Ms. Deepali Naair, Group Chief Marketing Officer, CK Birla Group. A big round of applause for Ms. Naair. And now I want to invite Mr. Vipul Oberoi, Director of Marketing, CSR and Learning Solutions for Dun & Bradstreet India. A big round of applause for this fireside discussion. Over to you.
Vipul's actually prepared with two mics, huh?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, Deepali, for joining us here.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.
So it's in fact one of the things which I've been looking forward to when we had planned this Marketing Maverick Summit, because having you here with such a great experience, and I wouldn't call you a seasoned marketer, you are like a seasoned professional. And what we're looking forward actually is that
it just shows my age, right?
It also shows the kind of respect that you have. In fact, all the while Deepali has been here, she has been bumping into people who have come up to her and reminded her when they have worked with her in the past, interacted with her, and it is something which I always observe that when they meet her, it's always an endearing personality that she has. That they always try to find out that one instance in their memory when they have interacted, and that is again something which I think also helps a marketer. And when we start about evolution of marketing, evolution of a marketer, I would ask Deepali first if you can go back in time, if you can go back to 93, 95 when you had joined Tata Motors, I believe first one, and the day you had stepped into the world of marketing. What was Deepali's approach to marketing then, and how has it changed now?
I think back in 1993, the first thing was that I was the first female management trainee that Tata Motors ever hired. You know, they didn't have women as management trainees, two of us in the same batch. And I think I really cut my teeth on sales there, and I think working on large projects. I don't think I really did marketing then in the first 2 years. But then I joined BPL Mobile after that, and I worked there for close to 3 or 4 years. And I think in those 3-4 years, I probably did the experience of 7-8 years. Some of you may not have started working or may have been at school at that point of time. But what I remember distinctly is, so I don't know. Okay, let me call out Dinesh because he's sitting over there. He'll probably remember these things. Okay. There used to be, the bus shelters that we have.
Yeah.
Today they're all digital. You guys are not used to seeing what used to be the traditional artworks. I'm talking about the pre-artwork stage. I actually used to go to a place in Ray Road where all best bus shelters used to get painted. Okay. And
Okay.
I would remember, so the BPL logo had the blue and the red line around it. I actually used to know which Goodless Nerolac paint shade delivered the red, which Asian paint shade delivered that red and the blue. I would actually know those. And we would go in the night because it'd go up in the morning. You bought it on a day and it'd go up in the morning. In the night at 10:30, we would go and approve the bus shelters to say, okay, yeah, this is proper. As a brand manager, I would actually go and do that. Now, when I look back at that and I look at the old season way of artwork, today when I have a lot of the team, so those things apply even today. A lot of the team come and say that, you don't miss a beat, Deepali. You always know my logo straight. this has not come okay. It's a kind of training that I think I've had in those days, which is, still applicable. So this is the similarity. I think the other thing that hasn't changed is basic whatever, somebody asked saying what was the brief that came from Cadbury's, to Sukesh. Somebody asked that question just now, right? The whole idea of basing your briefs and campaigns on consumer truth, knowing consumer well, I think is something that we learned, from those days. So even when I joined IBM and I had never worked in tech marketing before, I think the first thing I did was I told my sales team, and we are selling $1 million, contracts and so on and so forth. I said, I just want to go for a few sales calls with you, to see what happens, to go see through the process of how such a large contract, gets sold. So the consumer journey is my truth even till today. And that is something, again, I'm doing at CK Birla Group. We are a diversified group. I have, I think, 12 to 15 different, I won't call them products, but categories that I work on, from fertility clinics to hospital, to selling bearings in automobiles, to, fans at Orient Electric. We also have a cement company. We sell roofing sheets to tier 3 towns. We also sell aerofluted bricks, to contractors. We're launching a new school next week. I'm, very busy working on that. We're incubating a new company which is going to be a mining specialist. Okay, so it's really vast. Very tough last 8 months, I must admit. Okay, because the vista is just so big, and I've never worked in this single category also, except for Birla Soft, our IT services company. All the other categories are new to me, right? But I think that whole consumer truth of why is the consumer buying? What is it that you're offering to the consumer in terms of rational, emotional, or whatever self-actualization benefits? I think those remain true. And then, as a smart marketer, you can charter the path, the role of the brand, the role of lot of the other part of the businesses apart from the brand. So I think that has, not changed. But what has changed completely is the advent of digital. You guys have been listening about the whole AI thing. But I think to me, that's just still the mechanics of different channels. Okay. But what has changed dramatically is the bit about ecosystem. Okay. What has changed completely is today, for example, you need to take a decision. Are you going to be a brand who has its own app in that small real estate, or are you going to only sell through the ecosystem? Those kind of decisions for brands are extremely different. As a marketer, are you going to play the role therefore only of developing marketing communications and brand therefore, or are you going to play a role in acquisition of business depending on which category you're working in, and it differs. So the differences that have come in on account of, financial services being managed very differently, IT and technology sales being managed very differently, those differences did not exist, I think, in the first 20 years of my work life. Last 10 years, it's very tough. And I think the other difference that has come personally to me, and I don't know if it's age, so you guys can tell me if it's true for all of you. I think every quarter I feel I need to learn something new. There is something new happening every quarter. I often feel like going into a classroom and saying, okay, can somebody please come and teach me what is this? So, I have learned the hard way in that sense. I always have to ask. I call up people and I ask and say, okay, please tell me how this is done. So I think that's the evolution of marketing, I might say so. Sorry, I think I must add one more thing, which
Please.
is, in the good old days, everybody thought that if you knew very good English and you had good aesthetic sense, then you would make a good marketer. Okay, that used to be the age-old thing that used to exist even inside an MBA school when you were specializing in marketing.
Was that true?
That was true for the first 10 years of my work life, I think. Okay, you did good project management, you were a good professional, and you could succeed. But today, the way data has come into, the whole marketing arena, your quantitative skills better be up there. Otherwise, you're not going to have longevity of the career. You might succeed for the first 15, 20 years. You might even become head of marketing somewhere. But if you really want to evolve and do very large projects and do, more than just marketing, then I think the quantitative skills also need to be up there. So that's a new thing according to me.
I'm just picking something from what you mentioned some bit ago, that you are learning something new every quarter. is that earlier one insight would hold true for like multiple years, but now because of new data coming in, not just for us but also for new information coming into the consumer itself is constantly evolving every quarter or perhaps
No,
every year.
let me unwind for you what I said. See, even then, if I had to choose media channels, for example, I don't think I watched everything on Star World or everything on the general entertainment channels or every news. I was still dependent on an agency to come and tell me what a media plan would look like, right? Today also you're dependent, okay, we do this on Instagram and we do this on Meta and we're doing this on, social media, and this is what we will do on our website, and this is what we'll do on television, and this is what we will do on print. And there are category codes. They don't change. They shift. Maybe every year you do a review. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that we're trying to resolve something. There was a particular problem, and I need to get a new Wikipedia page done. Okay? I'd never done that before in my life. Right? There is a first time for everything. I distinctly remember the first time I did a Facebook community, first time I did a Facebook campaign, first time I, did a Twitter campaign, first time I did a LinkedIn campaign at IBM. I at least hadn't personally, got a Wikipedia page done before for whichever organization that I worked with. And while I've loved learning, I've also realized that this was something new. I had to call up three people. One is my agency and two friends to say, okay, hey guys, have you gotten a Wikipedia page done in the last 6 months? What does it entail for your brand? So that's what I mean by saying there are new things, that keep coming up.
And you just mentioned about CK Birla. That's a diversified group. You are doing marketing in sectors you haven't done before, and in fact, your whole career has been a checkered one and marked with probably I think 6, 7 different sectors by now.
I think
Easily?
with every job change, I've joined a new sector. Okay, so I have moved from automobiles to telecom to an ad agency. I worked with Marico, then asset management, insurance.
Holidays.
Yeah, always change sectors.
Yes. So, but do you think that's a great way for a marketer to grow, to evolve?
I think it happened to me by accident. Okay, it's serendipity, it's coincidence. I'm lucky in the sense that I haven't gone looking for a job many of the times in my life, except when I did my 2 sabbaticals. After that, I needed to be, conscious and go and look for a job. But before that, the jobs have always come to me, including, the current CK Birla one. So I think in the initial 10 years of what happened to my career and where I worked was serendipity. Okay. But it has paid me rich dividends now, I must admit. My current job, my job at IBM, my job at Mahindra Holidays, even to an extent HSBC, would not have happened had I not had a diversified sectoral experience. The brief at HSBC was somebody who's done brand FMCG and done service industry. The brief at CK Birla was clearly somebody who's experienced 6, 7 different sectors, right? But I'm not sure that you should build your career like this by design. Why do I say so? One, this is very, very, very hardworking job. Okay, it's tough. When you move to a new organization, when you move to a new sector and a new segment, I really have to go back and do my chops like a brand manager. I need to. I can't just go into a meeting and think I'm senior. But had I moved from IBM to a similar company, I could have afforded to do that. So one is extreme hard work. Second is, this is not the route for you to become a CEO. Okay, so if you want to be in marketing and you love marketing and you want to be a group CMO or manage a very large brand, this is a good strategy. But if you want to be a CEO and if you want to be on that path, then I think I would prefer not just one sector. I think you should get a chance in the same organization.
So, and accidents happen, and those accidents of various sectors have happened. I think, as you rightly mentioned, because you had a lot of experience in different diverse sectors, it put you in good stead as far as CK Birla, this stint is concerned.
Yeah.
But when you are managing different sectors, and that is something, of course, on the agency side, sometimes you work on different sectors, brands of different sectors. What really changes? What remains same and what changes?
I think I mentioned earlier that the customer truth is different for every category. But the process of discovery of that customer truth does not change. That amount of hard work of going and meeting the customer, knowing what they buy, what the insight is, what the intention is, what you're selling, crafting that proposition, that process that we all know, whether you did, Kotler or Acker or, brand key or whatever framework that you use, that remains the same and you must continue to use it. But the customer truth is different. The motivation of a CIO of why he will assign a contract to IBM is very different from a young couple who walks into a fertility clinics to get an IVF solution. The consumer truth is different. Then the other thing that is an advantage for you as a person when you're moving from one organization to the other is, thankfully, in the last 10 years now, the evolution of marketing itself is huge on account of the fact that there are new channels and you need to, like I mentioned, the Wikipedia example or the new kind of campaigns, that you're doing. So that's an inherent knowledge that I think the marketer is bringing, to the table of how it's done. And third, I think, is an experience and integration of everything brand. So one thing I must admit, since you're asking for advice also, what I say, don't be a one-trick pony, which is that, don't always just say, I've only done ATL and I will continue to do ATL, right? Or that I've only done digital and I will continue to do digital. And then after 10 years, you say, oh my God, if I want to be a CMO, how do I do ATL? So don't do that to yourself. Within the marketing domain, wherever you're working, put up your hand for doing new things. That's extremely important. So be a holistic marketer. Understand investor communication, understand corporate communication, understand ATL brand management, understand what BTL is all about, understand what, exhibitions and spatial marketing is all about. Apart from digital, which is, be it SEO, be it social media, understand what CRM is all about. Understand how data analytics is done. Understand how, as a marketer, you're also responsible for data privacy. Understand sustainability, that is going to come and, hit all of us in the coming years. So that learning, I think, is extremely important.
So, so in this sense, you spoke also about going out there and understanding the consumer decision-making process. But do you feel, because we have now marketing technology platforms, martech platforms, and all that has brought in all those insights and information towards us, do we now really need to go out, or has it made life simpler?
Anyone wants to answer that question? How many of you think you still need to go out? The rest, I'm assuming, think that technology can do the job. So where are the rest? One very famous boss of mine used to say that you can't be half pregnant. Okay, this one you please delete from the YouTube video. Okay, yeah. So I saw only 6 hands going up. No, you can't replace it. Okay, because the mechanics of selling in India, there is a very huge distinction between the people who are on the phone versus there are lots of people who are not on the phone. It is Bharat versus India, right? And then understanding the distribution segment, right? No amount of data or technology could have taught me what I learned. We also sell pipes in one of our company, a company is called HIL, of me going and visiting a master distributor and going to his godown and seeing what all he's carrying, right? He used to be a competitor's master distributor earlier. The conversation that I had with him, the kind of office he sits in, the motivation with which he speaks, you cannot replace it, okay? Or a small retailer in Chembur whose office is in the first floor of a chawl house that he has, where climbing for me was tough. But he's been a retailer for the last 35 years. The motivation with which he speaks about why he continues to be a loyal retailer for, Birla Putti, that you cannot, technology cannot give me the kind of insights that I get. And I'm just talking distribution. Now you take a layer and, talking to a customer. Technology cannot tell me the emotion upheaval a woman goes through, when she comes to her IVF clinic. But yes, what I tend to do, I was on a flight the other day with, PK of WPP, and I got introduced to his head of human resources, and I asked where she lived, and she said she's visited our hospital before, right? So that trick I don't lose of asking her, and she said the marketer in you is talking and you're doing your market research. I said, of course I am. I want to understand what happened and how was your experience, So you do a lot of informal research. I'm still the person who goes to a mall in US and looks at how retail brands are doing their merchandising versus how the retail brands in India are doing merchandising. That marketer you cannot get out of me. I may be a tourist somewhere, I may be doing my own grocery shopping for family, but the curiosity, of that. For example, take about 100 flights with Vistara. I wish the Vistara CEO sat down with me. I would tell him 15 things that without any cost they can improve of the Vistara flight experience. So that I think spending time with the consumer is cannot be replaced by any amount of technology.
Sure.
But yes, your hypothesis can be proven by the data that you might have in house. Okay, where again I will tell you a lovely experience to make you guys all laugh. I joined Mahindra Holidays, and we had this wonderful data analytics professional who came and told me that the family size. So Mahindra Holidays is a family brand. Okay, and he says the average number of children in a family is 1.2. Okay, which is fine. Which is fine. He's done the data analytics. I said, look, I think it should be likely 1.8 and not 1.2, because at 1.2 you're hearing and telling me that a lot of the families have one child. I said, which one is not the truth in India. Second, I've visited all the resorts, right? And when I go there, I see families. I mostly see people with 2 children or more. Very rarely do I see single child families. So he says, well, ma'am, data is showing me this, right? I left it at that point of time, because it was not going to make a humongous difference to us eventually on, how we sell or what we do with the brand and things like those. But I said, if the trend is going towards a single child family, then eventually we would think of a few things differently, including what we do in our creators. But that's a long term thing. But I didn't let go of that. Next time when I was visiting our resorts and I said, okay, how is this data captured? What happens? How? And this is what we discovered, right? We may be a timeshare company, but we have the hotel category POS, right? That POS for all the hotels and for us was capturing data only for the people that you are to be billed for. So if a family walked in with a child who was less than 2 years old, for which hotels didn't charge, then it would not go into the POS and into our data system. And now we are a timeshare. We've got one time the data of that customer, we've never updated it. So the child became from 2 years old to let's say 5 years old, but didn't exist in our system. So therefore, that was the answer to 1.2.
Yeah.
So, you require data for validation of your hypothesis, but you must also look at data and look at things happening around you to say, okay, are we blind to data? I'm going to borrow from Shiv. I'm a great fan of his, and he gave this example once at a talk. He said when he used to be at Pepsi, they found out that retail outlets facing east sell more. But he said, what do I do with this data? How do I use this data and how do I implement this data? Okay, retail outlets facing east sell more. What do you eventually do with that? You can't control it. It's not a controllable variable.
So data driven is good, but being data obsessed may not be that good.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's a good statement. Being data driven is very good, but data obsessed may not be good. Customer obsessed is good.
Customer obsessed. But now, in fact, we have this summit also on AI, which is the new trending term.
Yes.
And are we being again AI obsessed? So, what do you think? How generative AI is actually changing the whole scenario in marketing?
Okay, I'm going to make him delete this from the YouTube comments. One is that I think half the people use the word generative AI synonymously with AI and mean the same thing. Okay, we've not really understood what is an AI application versus what is a Gen AI application. Okay, and I would urge all of us, including me, to I think spend more time and learn that. I think AI application in marketing has happened extensively through the MarTech tools that we have. A lot of application of that has been happening for the last 5-6 years. There is at one level there is automation, then there is AI and ML usage, and you have automation tools in marketing, and then you have the AI ML accelerating the usage and automating the processes that you have in marketing, or giving you new hypotheses, or the way you run programmatic advertising and things like those, right? Then there is the Gen AI. Okay, Gen AI use cases are few and far between. Right? They are not really cases to say that only Gen AI could have helped you achieve those results. As of now, to me, use cases of Gen AI is either speed or cost saving. Okay, I have not seen that Gen AI per se has revolutionized, marketing. Okay, that is my personal opinion. I could be, I could be wrong. Love to be proven wrong. As far as the impact on marketing or impact on how I'm doing business or how I'm doing marketing, to me, once again, I currently only see a limited use of the ecosystem changing. What perhaps will change for me is that my BTL agency should be using Gen AI to produce creatives and should be offering the retainer to me a lot cheaper. Okay, the person who needs to be worried about is the person who is producing 3,600 copy definitions for doing the product descriptions on Amazon versus Nykaa versus Flipkart. Okay, now that is a task Gen AI can take over, right? And so the agency who today charges me 3,000 per product description, should not be charging me 3,000 per product description, should be charging me perhaps $100. They need to in turn change. They need to hire people who can do better querying on Gen AI, right? They may not have as many people who can produce copy and check grammar and check English, because Gen AI would be able to do it, right? We require more people who will be editors rather than people who are creators. But all these examples that I've given are of creative tasks which are repetitive. A Gen AI tool or a bot cannot replace Sukesh, right? Can only assist Sukesh in terms of producing or fructifying the ideas that a human being has thought of. Brand managers, marketing managers, I don't see them getting replaced in the next 5 years, perhaps even 10 years. Let me say that, right? But yes, if I'm a company which requires 5,000 digital banners every month, then I must experiment. What's the tool's name? Is it Journey or what? Mitchell. Then we must experiment with that tool and figure out, how to use that tool, to produce them cheaper for my team to learn. Right. So that's my limited understanding of Gen AI.
So you're saying for use cases of Gen AI, one should first look at the more repetitive tasks or something which requires
Repetitive
scale.
creative tasks. Repetitive creative
Creative
tasks.
tasks.
Repetitive quantitative task is AI,
Yeah.
ML. Simple thumb rule, right? But repetitive creative task, Gen AI.
And of course, throughout the day we have had discussions on what to do using AI or Gen AI. What do you think should not be done uh, by using AI or Gen AI?
I would say, I mentioned the word editor. What you
Yeah.
should not do is Gen AI, create the boundary condition, produce, then the campaign is out. Don't do that. I think a human eye needs to see it. An editor needs to see what is going out for your brand, because the damage that you can do yourself, because your competition also has the same ad and the same creative and the same looking woman in your ad, which has happened by the way already, okay, because of Gen AI campaigns.
Sure.
That is the worst thing that you can do to your brand. So I think I would say that's what you ought not to do. Uh, you can ask Gen AI as a professional to give you a template for writing your marketing plan. You can, and you might get that also, right? But the Gen AI cannot write your marketing plan. What you're going to get is an extremely average thing. And I've experienced this. The first application of Gen AI that I saw personally in my life was my resignation letter of IBM. The first draft came from ChatGPT. Okay, but I could not have used it the way it was. There's no way. But yes, it might have saved 20 or 25% of my effort of where to start. At least I got 3 paragraphs. I knew some of the vocabulary I got from there, but I still think that was 30% of the task. But yeah, I mean, if I can train ChatGPT to do the drafts of the letters for me and stuff like that, then we can. But I have huge questions and I don't have answers. Okay, my questions are on privacy. My questions are on what I'm training, let's say ChatGPT or any Gen AI tool for today. Is that learning getting transferred to you when you ask the same questions? Then I'm
Right.
losing my competitive advantage as a professional, as a brand, as an organization. So years ago when IBM did Watson, one of the greatest things that they came and spoke about was this, which is on the ethics and morality of using AI. And I'm talking, ML, machine learning part of the AI. They said the way a company is doing the query on Watson, we will not suggest that to another organization or the results that you're getting, right? Because that is competitive advantage. These are questions in my mind and I don't have answers, but I want to learn, What all is Gen AI learning on account of my brains?
And they should pay you then.
Why not?
Why not?
If that can happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So I must also tell you a failed experiment.
Yes, yes.
I interviewed Dilip Vengsarkar on stage recently, right? So somebody very stalwart in the industry said that Deepali, and I said, I don't know where to begin. What will I ask him? Okay. He said, to begin, ask ChatGPT to give you a set of questions, right? I got extremely bad set of questions, which were not even a starting point, right? But I didn't give up. Then I queried again and I said, okay, my question style is in my podcast. My podcast name is Being CEO with Deepali Naair. Okay, go through the stuff on the podcast and then now give me questions which are similar to my style. So ChatGPT said we can't access the podcasts. Okay, now I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out whether they can access audio files or not. But there are lots of times, when lots of experience and examples from people where it's exciting. It was very exciting for me to get the first draft of my resignation. Uh, but did it complete the task? Did it finish 90%? Has it automated my life as yet? No.
You say it's there but not yet there.
It's there but not yet there. Maybe I don't know how to query. Maybe I need to learn how to do the query. Maybe I need to go through a certificate course on how to do the querying. But I'm not there, and therefore this is a classic old marketing thing. If a product is easy to use, people will do a behavioral shift, right? Google as a search engine was easier to use compared to the search engines which came earlier. Not just that eventually it grew in size and covered everything. That happened eventually. But when it came, I remember there used to be an engine called Alta Vista earlier, right? When it came, it was an easier search engine to use. Easy is what people move to. If you make my life more difficult, I will not move to it.
So before we move on to that one last question on advice for the responsible marketers, anyone here would like to pose a question to Deepali? We have a question.
Thank
Easy
you.
question, huh? Don't ask me tough.
Sure. I was so glad you mentioned that everyone in marketing should learn different roles, including corporate communications. I head corporate communications for Aegon Life. Divya here. So my question to you is now, except corporate communications, there are tangible impact that can be shown for every other aspect. But corporate communications and PR per se is more to do with the intangibles of a brand. How do you do it, if at all you oversee that?
Your question
segment?
is how do I measure the impact of corporate communications
yes.
and PR? If corporate communications and PR as a function is integrated with brand, then there is no debate, because all the factors that you're using for ensuring that your brand is loved, more growth, more aware, more whatever are the KPIs that have been set, brand is more relevant. They are equally shared by the efforts that you make in corporate communications and the efforts that you make in brand. And then at a second layer, just the way you do the research for the brand, where you say, is my brand more correlated to this association, because you've actually done a campaign on that. Similarly, the efforts and the strategies that you've set out at the beginning of the year for corporate communications, and you've, let's say, done an effort to associate your brand with a certain cause, for example, then you see the level of association and the strength of it, right? The challenge happens inside organizations because corporate communications function as and the brand function are two separate functions. And for the CEO, there's no debate because the brand's doing the work. The problem is that this whole credit business. Okay, I did the job because of this. This has happened, or I did the job because of this happened. So I think that to me is a case of human silo and human collaboration. I don't think it's a scientific issue or a measurement issue to my mind in that sense.
That's good. Okay.
Yes.
Amit here.
Amit, you can ask me any question, anytime, in any case. But please.
So I think, like your stories, any which was so inspiring. But then that question that keeps on, hitting my head, when you look at the role of a marketer versus the bigger role that's there, I think, for anybody else, is the role of a CEO. So the question here is, what do you think, like, is it possible for a great marketer to be an equally an amazing great CEO? What's your thought on that, and how?
I think so. I totally think so. I think marketeers are absolutely capable of becoming great CEOs. But I think more importantly, my message to everyone is you may be designated the CMO, but what's stopping you from thinking like a CEO inside your organization? I think that's the bit that you need to think about it. That's when you make marketing more relevant to the rest of the organization. There have been times in my life when somebody has come and told me saying, we don't have enough budget, okay, this quarter. I have gone back and said, why don't you keep this also? You will do cost saving, better EBITDA, better PAT, because this much money is not enough to do a campaign. Now that's the greed that marketers need to get away from. That's a mindset change that a CMO needs to have. CMO needs to think like a CEO, and think for the business. Yes, please.
I must say I'm humbled by listening to your experience and your journey across industry. People usually specialize, particularly the field I come from. I come from pharmaceuticals, and I was born in pharmaceutical, and I continued I rose to the level of CEO in pharmaceutical,
Wonderful.
not in other institute. But in your case, you work across the industries, and that you applied the principles of marketing in a true sense.
Thank you.
Because when I used to work in the field, people used to ask and laugh at me. I used to do micro interiors. Yeah, I just wanted to see the behavior. So today I got a receipt that what I did wasn't wrong. There's somebody else who has done better than me.
Wonderful. Thank
So
you
it
so
was
much.
nice meeting you, and I hope I get a chance to interact with you. Thanks.
I'm
Thank you.
continue to be active on Twitter. I love that. It's called X now. I know. Sorry.
One-
I'm always available for interaction.
So Deepali, again, great experience, diverse experience, versatile, right? So, do you think, given your diverse experience and your rich marketing background, right? To Amit's question, right? You think like a CEO. So the roles of a chief strategy officer and data officer and a marketing officer. Do you think there is a potential future that these roles might be combined into something else?
You know, I I refer to these things as what I call informal leadership. Okay, I may not be designated the chief strategy officer. Doesn't stop me from making any suggestion or doing a conversation which is strategy related. I may not be designated the chief security officer. I come with the IBM background. I can talk security and data privacy, and doesn't stop me from making those suggestions either. If you come from the right place and you develop the right style, then people inside the organization will listen to your suggestions, whether they are in the area of customer service, brand, customer experience, data, technology, or strategy. And specifically to answer your question, I'm not sure whether strategy and marketing will ever merge, but I think strategy and marketing have to work hand in hand. It's extremely important. I do think in those cases, business strategy leads, and probably marketing needs to draw inspiration from where the business wants to go. And marketing needs to ensure that the business gets there faster, better, more profitable, or whatever.
That's
Dipali, in fact, what you are mentioning, if I summarize it, it's also about then the mindset. It's not really about your domain knowledge, but
Yes.
your mindset and how you are managing marketing. And of course, there are various themes which are going on. We talk about AI, there is transformation, there's globalization, changing customer expectations. You mentioned, but there's also growing emphasis on moral and social responsibility. If there would be one last piece of advice for the marketers, what would that be?
I think in the space of data, if you want to serve well your own brand or the brand that you're working for, ask yourself the questions: how is the data getting utilized? You should not be able to get hacked. The MarTech tool that you're using should not lead into a reputation risk in future. I think those questions are becoming extremely important. The campaigns that you're doing and the questions on sustainability, I think on one side, those are, I think, the moral and ethics questions. The other one, interestingly, I was sharing with Vipul just before. I said it's my appeal to marketers sitting over here. Just because you've run out of ideas, don't call for an agency pitch. Uh, you know, make the effort yourself. Okay. Just because you don't know whether how to validate the cost that my current agency is charging, don't call for an agency pitch. Right? We're getting a lot of bad name because of that. So I think do some amount of thinking. Get onto CMO networks. Talk to other CMOs. Learn from others, and you should be able to get the answers that you're seeking. But to
But-
me, it is a moral and ethics question. It's about professional behavior. I think
Sure.
there is, and I can say this easily, there is no agency CEO today who will not come for a pitch when I call them. They will not ask any question of where you're working, what brand it is, whether you're a freelancer, Deepali, or you are a designated person, because that's a respect that you've built over the years. So think long term for your own career, when I'm making this statement.
I think definitely, Diwali, with your advice, of course, the kind of career that you have built, you are a template for how other marketeers should build
Thank
their
you
own
so
career. Thank you so much for all those gems of wisdom, and I hope the audience also enjoyed as much as I did.
I hope they did, and thank you for inviting me. And a round of applause for Vipul. I think he's done a very good job of asking me the questions. As a podcast host, I can tell you that.
Thank you.
So, a round of applause, please.
Thank you so much, Prashant. I think I personally learned a lot from this session, and as I'm sure everyone else did, I request Mr. Oberoi to present the memento to you.